Is the Samsung Tab S6 a good tablet? Yeah, it's pretty great. Should you buy it? Maybe? What's up guys, it's Subsy here and this is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6. Now it's a 10-inch tablet by Samsung, it's their flagship tablet for 2019 and it's still the newest one they have out yet. They haven't actually released a new version of this. There might be a 5G version coming soon, there's been leaks about that. But as it stands, this is their latest flagship model. But is it any good? Well, let's get into the hardware first. So in terms of build quality, it's built from a single piece of metal, so that makes it very sturdy and it's very slim. It's about 5 or 6 millimeters thin. And it's got a 10-inch AMOLED screen at resolution of 2560 by 1600 and it goes very bright. Like, I rarely ever use it more than 50% brightness. Normally I've got mine set around 30%, but when you put it to 100% it is extremely bright and I've never needed to go that bright. Even in direct sunlight I've never used it at 100%. It's just been an all-round brilliant screen for me. Now one of the things I'd change about that is it's sort of weird. So in the past I've had 8-inch tablets and for me that's been a perfect size. And now that I've got a 10-inch one, in my mind before I got this, I thought maybe 10 inches is going to be too big. I'd prefer to have an 8-inch with a stylus, but that's not the case. And in sort of a weird way, I sort of wish that there was a 12-inch version of this that I could try out, mainly because when you're using it as a canvas or to take notes, you do run out of space quite quickly and you just sort of want a bigger canvas to play with, right? Now it does have quad speakers and they are dual channel and they do have good audio separation between them and they do get really loud, and even at around 95-100% volume there's not that much distortion in the audio. There's a tiny bit, but when you get down to 90% there's none that I could tell, and there's a fair amount of bass, especially considering how slim it is. It's not as good as the iPad Pro speakers, but it's still probably my second best tablet speakers that I've tested. And then we have the S Pen. Now the S Pen is great, don't get me wrong, but it's not brilliant. It's sort of like they just lifted it off the phone and put it on this and never really considered the use cases that people would use it for. Now if you want to use it for notes, it's perfectly fine for that, but as soon as you get into creative apps or sketching, whatever, you sort of realize the downfalls of this S Pen and how they could have made it better, made slight tweaks to the design and it would have been a lot better. Now this is probably my third favourite stylus, the first and second being the Surface Pro Pen and the Apple Pencil. This one doesn't really have a cone shape, which becomes an issue, especially when you're shading in creative apps, so the actual metal of the pen gets in the way and you just sort of hit that on the screen. Now in terms of pressure sensitivity, it's been completely fine for taking notes and the palm rejection for that is pretty good, so there's no issues with that. And if your primary use case is taking notes with this, then there's no real downfall for me. I've never had an issue taking notes with this. It's just when it comes to like shading in creative apps, that's the only issue I have with this. And one of the benefits for this is that you can change the nib at the top, and it comes with 3 in total, so there's 2 black ones and 1 white one, and the black ones give a sort of rubbery feel to the screen, so you get more resistance, and the white one is plastic, so there's pretty much no resistance and it just feels like you're writing with a pen. The black one's really good if you want sort of a pencil-like feeling against the screen, so it actually feels like you're shading with a pencil. And the white one, if you want like a biro pen or something like that against the screen, it just feels, it glides really well with the white one. But for me, I prefer the black one because I like that resistance to the screen. Now the battery life on this, it has over a 7000 milliamp battery. I'm not exactly sure the exact number of it, but it does last me all day, and that's all day with using the screen pretty much all the time. So I've got this open whilst I'm at work, watching stuff in the background or with the web page open, not really doing like intensive stuff. I'm not playing games on this or anything like that during the day, but if I just use normal stuff during the day, even with the screen on pretty much 80% of the time, I still get to the end of the day with around 20 to 30% left, and it does charge fairly quickly for the size of the battery. It's not got fast charging like phones do or say the new Surfaces, but it's still pretty good and I've never had an issue with the battery life with this so far. It has 2 cameras at the back. There's a standard and an ultra wide, and they're cameras and they're on a tablet, and if you care about them then there's something wrong over there. But if you do care about them, they're not great, just to let you know. They're pretty noisy. The standard one, I don't ever see a use case for that unless I'm like scanning a document, but even then, I've tried doing it with this and it didn't come out really clear because the actual camera wasn't that great. But the ultra wide, that can get pretty fun. So with a 10-inch viewfinder and an ultra wide camera, you sort of, it's weird how much you see around you on a 10-inch screen. So using it on a phone is different because you have a small viewfinder, but with a massive viewfinder, you're sort of standing there and you can see stuff around you, and it's just, it's a weird feeling. I can't really explain it, but you have to sort of use it to see it. and the quality isn't great, so I wouldn't actually recommend taking any pictures with it, but just as like a gimmick, just to sort of have that weird feeling, it's different, okay? But if you want to see some shots from both, here are some outdoor and indoor shots from either one. Now the front facing camera, well, it's not great, it's better than what you get on laptops, that's just a given. It's not as good as the ones you get on phones, even on like a Samsung S10, that's a lot better than this one, but it is good enough for video chatting. You're not going to take Snapchat pictures like that on a camera, and if you do, then there's something wrong with you. But for using it with Duo, it's really awesome, especially seeing like the other side's picture on a 10-inch screen. I think the tablet is perfect for Duo calls, just standing it up, and it does really well in low light. But that could just be Duo processing the image, I don't actually know. I haven't actually tested the front-facing camera in any other scenario apart from Duo video calling, but if you want to use it for that, then it's perfectly fine, and I'm assuming it'll be similar for other video calling apps, so say on Messenger or on Skype. But apart from that, the fingerprint sensor, it has an optical under-display fingerprint sensor. I'm not really sure how I feel about that right now. It's not very accurate for me, but for my friend that I know who has the same tablet, he has no issues with it. But for me, I get about 50% rating in terms of like matching my fingerprint or not. Most of the time it just says not recognized, and then not recognized again, and then again, and then it says I can't use a fingerprint, I have to put my pattern in to unlock it. So that's pretty pointless to me. So what I've done is I've enabled the face unlock. It's not as secure, but I mean it works, so I don't have to like put in my pattern. I sort of wish there was one built into the fingerprint sensor, or like an optical one, because it seems to me that when this screen has smudges, that's when it stops working. Maybe I don't press hard enough, but I've tried putting more pressure on the screen. That doesn't work. So I'm not actually sure what the issue is for me, and why it works for my friend and not me. So yeah, that's not for me. I'm not going to use a fingerprint sensor, but I'll still have it enabled just for the off chance that it does work. It's weird, it doesn't seem like it's learning patterns. So with my Pixel, I can sort of understand that it learns every time, so it makes it more and more accurate and faster every time you use it. With this, I'm not sure that it does that. So it is running Android 9, not Android 10. Unfortunately, there is no actual release date yet for Android 10. It's been out for a long time, and it's Samsung that sort of have to make their bloatware fit on this. Did I say bloatware? I meant their Android One UI skin thing on this. And I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still pretty heavy. It doesn't make it slow down or anything like that. It's got Snapdragon 855 on this and 6 gigs of RAM in my model, which is the 128GB model, and it's really fast. I've not had any issues with performance. But one thing I did do at the start is install Nova Launcher, so that's the one I'm using on this, because I didn't like the default Samsung launcher. One of the reasons I want Android 10 is because of the gesture-based UI, but Samsung do have their own version. It's not as good because I'm used to the one on my Pixel, so I'm sort of like halfway using those gestures on this and then getting it wrong, and then trying to use these ones on that now, and it's just sort of a mismatch. So I do wish Android 10 came to this, because they don't really let you use the same gestures. So what about the apps? Well, the sketching apps on this are pretty great, but for that I'll probably get into a separate video, because if you're interested in that, there's so much to go into, a lot of detail, and this video is going to be long enough without me adding all of that into it. In terms of video editing apps, they're crap. Now, I'm not just saying that lightly. I've tested about 5 or 6 different video editing apps, and they all have similar issues. Now, the best one out of all of them is probably Adobe Rush for Samsung. They worked sort of with Samsung to optimize it a bit more for this tablet and for DeX. And that's still pretty basic. Like, you can't even do really simple things. You can't have multiple sequences and work with them together. You have to work at one sequence at a time, and you can't use sequence A and sequence B, which for me is just completely rubbish, because that just defeats the whole purpose of having a bigger screen working with videos. That's something that seems more like a phone's app, so it's just not a very good experience editing videos on this. It has the power, it just doesn't have the app support. And another issue comes into Chrome. Now, the Chrome browser itself is fantastic, but the issue is the user agent. It uses the mobile user agent, so many websites think it's a phone, and they by default go to the phone website, and that's just really annoying, going to desktop mode every time. Even the iPad OS now doesn't use the mobile Safari, it uses the user agent from the desktop, so websites actually know that it's coming from a bigger screen and not just a big phone. Managing files on this is actually really good. So it has a USB-C port, which means that you can just plug pretty much any USB-C thing in here so far. So I've tried it with external displays, and I've tried it with my Samsung T5 SSD. Now with that, it shows up as the SSD as a separate drive. You can go through the entire thing, you can copy files, move files to the internal storage, move files between that and the micro SD card. It's just really full featured, and for me it's really great. I haven't actually found any issues with it. It's probably one of my favourite parts of having an Android tablet as opposed to an iPad right now. Now the app selection itself isn't great. There's not many tablet optimized apps on the Play Store, and you may think, well, why can't you just use phone apps because they resize? Well, some of them are locked to portrait and some of them are just pretty crap on a big screen, so it's just a massive phone display. And a prime example of that is the YouTube Studio app. Now you'd think an app made by Google would have some sort of optimization for this, but no, it doesn't even let you do like a big phone in landscape. You have to have the tablet in portrait. If you have it in landscape, when you open the app, it becomes portrait, and that's really annoying. Now other examples of that is Spotify, Instagram, and Microsoft Teams. They let you have it in landscape, but it's just a stretched out phone version. It's not really good, and it doesn't really make use of the 10-inch tablet screen. Now in some cases this issue doesn't matter, say on Netflix or on Amazon Prime Video or on Udemy. The purpose of that is to watch a video, so as soon as you click play for the video it becomes full screen, but they could still potentially optimize the UI, make use of the real estate of the screen. So I'm not going to talk about DeX or any apps specifically, so I'm not going to talk about say Microsoft apps or Adobe apps in this video. I'll do a separate video about those entirely because there's quite a bit to talk about with those, but I'm just going to quickly get into the Notes app. So the ones that I use on this regularly are Samsung Notes, OneNote, and Bamboo Paper. Bamboo Paper because it's quite user friendly, it's got a really simple UI and it's really quick to take notes. Samsung Notes just because it's convenient. It's not really the best, but it's really convenient to do screen off memos and other stuff like that. It's got shortcuts and all of that built around the OS. And OneNote just because it syncs up to my desktop on OneNote. So this is a really good tablet. It's the best Android tablet you can buy, full stop. There's no other Android tablet which comes close to this in my opinion. The pen isn't as good as some of the tablets, but it's still really good if you want to take notes or do anything more than just entertainment and media consumption on this. It is great for entertainment. It's not so good for other apps. It all depends on your use case, depends on what you want to do with the tablet. I wouldn't recommend this at retail price, but if you can get it on discount, it's a really good deal and you really won't regret it. It's overall a really good tablet to use, and I will be making more videos on this, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, it's been Subsy here. Adios!